All eyes were on the Senate Democrats' closed-door lunch today to see if indicted Senator Bob Menendez could defend himself to his colleagues in the face of federal bribery charges. We're watching to see if the senator was able to change any minds, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who has not called for his resignation but has not defended him either. The senator is accused of accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars to benefit 3 New Jersey businessmen and the Egyptian government. So far, 30 senators, a majority of the Senate Democratic caucus, have called on Menendez to resign, but Menendez has shown no sign of caving to the pressure. Listen to what he had to say as he left today's lunch.
We'll continue to cast votes on behalf of the people of New Jersey, as I have for 18 years. And I'm sure when they need those votes, they'll be looking forward for me to cast those votes.
A defiant Senator Menendez there. NBC's Ryan Nobles has the very latest from Capitol Hill. So, Ryan, to the best that you can, take us inside that lunch. What came out of it? Was Senator Menendez able to win over any hearts and minds?
Yeah, Kristen, we actually have quite a bit of reporting from what was happening inside of the room because of our team. Frank Thorpe, Liz Brown-Kaiser, and Julie Sirkin kind of fanned out and talked to all these different senators as they were leaving. And the sense we got was that this really didn't change too many minds. Senator Menendez spoke for about 15 minutes. He actually didn't really even get into the allegations against him, basically talked about his history as a senator and his relationships with the folks in the Democratic caucus. And then he didn't even take any questions, and nobody really attempted to ask him any questions. So as a result, many of the senators that left that meeting that had already called on him to resign didn't change their position, and there doesn't seem to be any real movement among Senate leadership to try and force him from office. And then even further out, there really is no indication that Menendez is changing his posture at all. He appears to be willing to stay in office as long as it takes. The big question that's still unanswered that we thought maybe would have been revealed during this meeting is whether or not he intends to seek re-election. He has still not definitively said if he plans to do that, Kristen.
Interesting. We know it's so interesting because Leader Schumer has, as you say, hasn't called for him to resign yet, and he said, let's see what happens.
Right.
We're watching Schumer very closely, obviously, to see if there's any tea leaves to be read within his orbit. What are you hearing? What are you observing?
Yeah, I think it's an issue right now, Kristen, where, Chuck Schumer has to be the leader of the entire Senate Democratic caucus, and there really isn't any motivation for him to call on Senator Menendez to resign because it likely won't result in Senator Menendez stepping down. And what I think you can read behind, between the tea leaves here about this, and nobody from the senator's office has specifically told us this, but it's just kind of our own understanding of how these things work. The fact that you saw a floodgate open and so many of these Democratic senators feel comfortable to call for Menendez's resignation is probably a signal that Schumer's at the very least not telling them not to do that. And I do think that that's a significant distinction because for the most part, he's able to keep the Democratic caucus in line. But I do have to say there's one senator who's an outlier among outliers, and that's John Fetterman. He called on Menendez to step down before anyone else did, and then he's double, triple, even sometimes quadrupling down on the fact that he believes Menendez should resign, even to the point where he didn't even go to this lunch today. Listen to what he said about it earlier.
I didn't go to the lunch. I refused to, because the only thing that, if he has something to say, it's like, he's resigning. That's the only honorable exit. And he's got to go. He's got to go. I can't imagine, how he could possibly explain any of that kind of a thing. But that's him to do in the court, not here among us. He needs to go.
So that is Senator Fetterman's stance on that. Obviously, his other colleagues maybe not as forceful in calling on Menendez to resign, but there was certainly no one whose mind was changed after hearing his plea to his caucus earlier today, Kristen.
Well, great reporting and fascinating analysis about what Leader Schumer is trying to do there by giving his colleagues space. Ryan Nobles, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.